Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Welcome to Tennessee This Week. Before we dive into the issues, let's meet our panel of pundits. We're down to two this week. We have George Corder, our political analyst, and Courtney Piper, political contributor. Craig is off this week, so it'll just be the two of you going head-to-head on all these issues. Let's start with a special session. We're now almost a month away from when it is going to happen. A few days ago, the governor was asked about it, what he thinks will happen, what he wants to happen. Here's what he had to say.
The men and women of the General Assembly understand that public safety is of utmost importance. So there'll be a lot of things discussed. It'll be an opportunity to focus on public safety, to concentrate our efforts on how it is that we make this state a safer place than it was before we went into session.
Are you hopeful that you're going to make some good progress in that session?
I think that we've had a lot of conversation with lawmakers. A lot of people have some really good ideas about things that we can do to make Tennessee a safer place, not only for our children, but for families of all types, for individuals, just a safer state. I'm very hopeful for it.
You heard from the governor there. We also heard from the Republican Speaker Pro Tem. He says he won't support anything that includes the word firearm, wants to hear from the NRA before the session, and he says we need to look at the root cause rather than the firearm. Of course, on the other side of that, Gloria Johnson, Democrat, she says that we need to require licenses, require training, have waiting periods, and ban some type of guns. Two questions, and I'm going to start with Courtney. Will we actually have the special session, and will anything substantial come from it?
We must have the special session. The governor called for the special session. What comes out of it is to be determined. If the state legislators want to listen to their constituents, the vast majority of those constituents want the Tennessee General Assembly to pass some sort of common sense gun safety laws that would include things like background checks and red flag laws, although I think people have started calling them something else. So again, if our state legislature is going to go to Nashville in August and listen to the will of their constituents, this is what they want them to do. Now, what happens if they go there and they don't do anything and they don't do what their constituents want them to do? I would venture to guess that with the level of mass shootings that we are having in this country, that there will be political consequences for them.
George.
I submit that if it was that overwhelming a desire of Tennesseans, then the General Assembly would be talking about what it planned to do rather than what it planned to not do. And the issues, I suspect that if he had, this is just suspicion, that if he had to do over again, Governor Lee wouldn't have been so quick to talk about calling a special session. The issue, particularly the one that's going to be, I don't think yet anywhere, is this whole red flag law idea. I was on the internet the other day studying some questions people have asked about red flag laws. And they're posing questions along the lines of, my neighbor has a gun. I'm afraid. Can I report him under a red flag law? My neighbor has a gun. I asked to see his gun safe. He told me to go away. Now I want to report him because I feel scared. This is the United States. You don't have to prove that you are a safe neighbor. And there's an argument about gun safe, that you have to, they want laws where you have to safely store your weapon. Well, a lot of people buy guns in order for self-defense, and they can't go, excuse me, Mr. Home Invader, I have to go open my gun safe in order to get my gun to protect myself. And it's a constitutional right. And so I don't think this is going to go much of anywhere. And I submit that if Tennesseans were so overwhelmingly desirous of these things, we wouldn't be talking about what they plan to do. We'd be talking about what they were going to do.
A couple of things. So red flag laws, whatever it is that we are calling them nowadays, can be very similar to orders of protection or restraining orders. That is called due process. So just like I can't go to the court and say, my neighbor is scary, period, and I want a restraining order or an order of protection, The same thing would happen with any kind of red flag law. Due process, you have to do due process. And I think that this messaging of saying that, people are going to start going to court and they're going to say they're afraid of their neighbor because they have guns it's not meant to be productive. It's meant to scare people, and it doesn't encourage productive discussion around gun safety laws.
But is there a way that both sides can work on that language that says, hey, yeah, you can do that you can do it all. Look, I used to be a police officer. People come and would say things like, hey, there are steps you need to take, and there's certain things that we can and can't do. So let's just say, right, like in George's case, someone does want to do that. They can do it. They can call the police, and the police say, no, that's not the case. Can they get wording, George, that could actually both sides could agree on, where it's like, okay, this isn't going to interfere with my gun rights, but at the same time, it's going to get people that might truly, with due process, have some mental health or mental issues that should be dealt with?
Well, I don't know how you construct language that says your neighbor has the ability to complain about you and potentially have you investigated on the basis of their concerns.
Are you serious, George?
Yeah, I don't
look
know
at
how you
orders
do that,
of protection.
Courtney, if somebody's living next to you,
one at a time.
I mean, neighbors call city codes, law enforcement on their neighbors all the time.
Right.
Like, we're not talking about things like we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. All you have to do is look at orders of protections and restraining orders and follow the same sort of language and process to get somebody due process.
You should not, I should not, no one should be the subject of a potential action against their liberty because someone else has said, I don't like that, or they said something to me, or I think they're unstable.
That's not what this is, George. That's not what this is.
What it is.
Well, the thing is,
I certainly do know what it is because I'm familiar with how due process works.
No, I'm sorry. It is a constitutional right.
It is not a constitutional right, carte blanche, to bear arms. It's a well-regulated militia. So there is a right to regulate it. Why don't you
argue that with the Supreme Court? Because they've already decided that the Americans have the right to bear arms. So if you don't like it, you can complain to the Supreme Court.
Well, the dance, I guess, is going to be to try to find something where both sides will be happy. And I'm not sure I see that.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. The other part of this that I wanted to get into is that when the governor we had a chance to talk to him this week, a second issue as we move on. A week ago, the U.S. Court of Appeals, Sixth Circuit Court, reinstated Tennessee's ban on surgeries and puberty blockers for trans minors, saying that there was no evidence that Tennessee's law violated the Constitution. The governor then weighed in and said this.
Protecting kids from life-altering permanent decisions is the focus of this legislation. We want to protect Tennessee's kids, and that bill is designed to do that. I was pleased that the court recognized that and understood it. Our state's attorney general has been behind the efforts to make sure that moves forward in the courts and it maintains its integrity as law in our state, and we'll see where that goes.
All right, now that we heard from the governor, I'm just curious, will this stand? Why not? We know some other states have gone through this and appellate courts have knocked it down. But here, in this case, Tennessee still has its law in place. We'll start with George this time. Will it stand, and why not?
Well, the court essentially said it's up to the state. It's the state makes the law. The law, therefore, is passed by the state, and that's the law of Tennessee. And I was thinking about the HBO talk show host, Bill Maher. He said about this issue, he said, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pirate, and I'm very glad somebody didn't take out my eye and cut off my leg and stick a peg leg on me. The children cannot make these decisions. They cannot make lifelong decisions where they are going to be either surgically altered or they're going to undergo treatment with significantly powerful drugs. They can't do that. We can't turn that responsibility over to a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old. And so on that basis, if somebody if somebody doesn't like the idea, I mean, that a 12-year-old can't get puberty blockers or surgical procedures or other treatments, then they should go to a state where that is accepted, because it's not accepted in Tennessee, and the appeals court has upheld it.
Courtney.
I think what George just said is extraordinarily hateful rhetoric, and it demonstrates that he just does not understand or care to understand or empathize with the transgender community. When you say you're handing over these life-altering decisions to a 10-year-old, that is 100% false. It's the parents. And I find it extraordinarily ironic that our state government is all about parental rights, unless it comes to these culture war issues that really only affect a handful of Tennesseans. Then for some reason, they think it is their responsibility to usurp all the findings and the research and the best practices that the American Academy of Pediatrics and other medical professionals have laid out for gender affirming care. I fail to see how our state legislature knows more than the medical community on this very topic. And it does nothing but marginalize the transgender community. And it again, this whole entire issue for me is a head scratcher for those reasons. And
hold on. I have a request, Don.
I know. Just one second. We do prevent minors, and I'm not taking sides here, but we do prevent minors. I have 3 boys who are now adults from drinking, from smoking, from voting, from getting tattoos because they're minors. We know brain development is not the same, so we do get in the way of some things. And I understand the risks of self-harm and things like that, but how is this different? There are things we don't let minors do.
Yeah, for example,
those minors, hang on, those minors are not experiencing depression and suicide because they can't vote and because they can't drink. And the American Academy of Pediatrics and other medical professionals has no data to support that preventing minors from drinking or doing drugs or voting has any sort of long-term consequences on their overall mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
I would like to request that we disagree on subjects without calling each other hateful.
Yeah.
I would request, Courtney, that you please permit me to have a position without jumping on it as hateful.
I have a position, and I can have an opinion about your position.
That is a tactic used to try to silence and demonize other people, and I would request that none of us do that.
Right. Best just to say your opinion. Let's just say our opinions and not talk about the other person.
So here's the point. Here's the point. To your point, Don, if a parent wants to buy their children alcohol or wants to take their children even to a triple X rated movie or a strip club or something, they can't do that. They can't do it.
Yeah, they could.
And so from the standpoint, and there are cases in this country where schools and others have assisted in gender affirming care or counseling without parents' knowledge.
That's not.
George, you're right, George. There are, but that's not the thing that we're discussing here. And
that's a step.
Again, the medical community has weighed in on this issue. Yeah. They have developed standards and best practices, and I fail to see how the Tennessee General Assembly thinks that they are smarter or know more than the medical community on this issue.
And every Democrat out there should run on this issue, Courtney. You should demand it that they allow children to make the decision.
Well, because George,
even if the parents are along with
what's next?
Changing their gender.
If the General Assembly doesn't like some sort of cancer treatment, so they're going to say it's not allowed in the state.
That's not even remotely comparable.
Okay.
Why?
And on that note, we're going to leave it right there because I'm being told we have to take a break. So we're going to take a break and be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Congress has been talking, but not doing a lot about Social Security. Bipartisan agreement that something needs to be done, but nothing's being done. I mean, a lot of people say it's a third rail type thing. If you touch it, you're in trouble. But Social Security's retirement fund projected to be depleted by 2033 if something isn't done. We'll start with you, George. I don't know they have no choice here unless they want people to run out of Social Security because they can only pay like 77% of it in 2033 if they don't change something.
Well, the Social Security trustees have been warning for years of excruciating financial calamity befalling the system in the future. And essentially, we've got a situation in which, you remember back in 2000 when Albert Gore was running for president, he kept talking about the lockbox. We're going to put it in a lockbox. It's because the government.
That does a bad impersonation, by the way.
I can't do Gore.
I know.
I guess if I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually can, but I don't have enough time.
Okay.
But this lockbox thing was because the government was taking the money,
right,
the surplus in Social Security, and using it for general funds, as I recall, and it made the deficit look smaller. And so this was going on under Republican administrations and Democratic administrations. And so we're in a situation that is just dire with both Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security. It's nearing, the costs of those two programs are nearing more than $1 trillion between. I think they are more than $1 trillion, come to think of it. Maybe 1.4.
Well, the question is, will they get something done?
But I'll tell you what, I was in a senator's office a few years ago, and I asked this very question. And he looked at me and he said, there is no political will. The moment a legislator opens his mouth or her mouth about doing anything about Social Security, they are vilified and attacked and beaten, and they shut up. And that's the situation we're in.
Courtney.
You know what? As they should. Americans are entitled to these benefits, and that is what they deserve. The other side of this equation is making sure there's enough revenue in the bank account to pay for what Americans are entitled to, which includes Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And where do you start? Well, you start with America's largest corporations who are currently not paying their fair share of taxes. That would go a long way to make sure that some of these social programs are well funded and can provide Americans the benefits that they are entitled to.
If a corporation raises taxes, who pays?
Well, yeah.
You do, and I do, and everybody who buys from that organization. Corporations don't pay taxes. Their customers pay taxes. That would be the American consumer.
Those same corporations, their employees are taking advantage of all of these social programs, and they're not paying their fair share into the kitty. We can start
Everybody's idea of fair share is what somebody else ought to pay.
Well, Courtney,
what their fair share is.
What do you mean by that? If you're a worker,
like repeal.
We just lost.
Would that put back into the kitty?
Okay. We still have your audio, I think. We lost, just dropped out for a second, it seemed like. Anyway, we're running out of time for the next subject. So we're going to take another commercial break, and then we'll discuss, what will we discuss? We'll talk about the Supreme Court. See if we can find some common ground. You're right. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We are going to just spend another moment on the issue of Social Security because I thought we had some microphone issues. We're all good with that. But when, Courtney, you had mentioned some people not paying their fair share, and that's corporations, I think you were referring, but you said something about employees. I'm thinking employees like you or me or whoever works for someone, it's coming out of your check. So people are paying, but we're at the point now that what's going in can't cover because people live so long. So that's why I'm asking, how are we going to deal with this? It's
not going to come out of corporate federal income tax is not going to come out of my paycheck and your paycheck. Okay. The line items that come out of our paycheck are for Social Security, Medicaid, federal income tax, our federal income tax, not the corporations.
Right. Hey,
so,
Courtney,
what if we went back to before the Trump tax cuts? And specifically related to corporations, what happens if those multi-billion corporations start paying their fair share of taxes?
Courtney, let me ask you a question. If you have a business, if taxes were raised on your business, would you have to make decisions related to that as in hiring or
No.
bonuses, or you would if all of a
No.
sudden the government said you're going to pay us more, it would have no effect on any decision you make with respect to your business.
No. And again, and I think here's a common misconception. People think that, the government comes in and is like, you're going to have to give us, 75% of your earnings. And that's not how it works. It's actually fairly nominal, and I would take it out of my profits.
But the
I
point
wouldn't
is,
have to make any adjustments as a business owner. So you don't like my answer.
That's like Jen Psaki when she said,
you don't like my answer. You asked me a question.
No,
you don't like my answer.
Because any cost that is put upon a business, they have to factor that into their employee pay, their bonuses, their hiring.
Sure.
Everything about their
For
operation.
example, my personal property taxes went up in Knox County, and I'm not giving anybody a pay cut because of it.
The point,
it's nominal.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
You don't like my answers.
If you raise the price of something, it requires a change in the way the organization or person who has to pay the additional money has to deal with it. There is an equal and opposite reaction. It's not, we can.
Okay, well, things were cheaper before the Trump tax cut. So are we going to go back to those prices instead of prices today?
Well, let's put it this way. This may all end up at the Supreme Court. And when it does, because we're going to switch to another topic, we're hearing that there are some suggestions of putting term limits on justices by the people who don't want term limits, some of the folks in Congress, and maybe even expand the court by 4 judges. I want to get your opinion. And will expansion happen? Will term limits happen on the Supreme Court? Courtney, we'll start with you this time.
I think this is a really, really good conversation because I just finished listening to the Howard Baker Jr. Center for Public Policy has a podcast called You Might Be Right. And one of the topics that they just explored was term limits. And they looked at term limits almost over various forms of government. So what does it look like for executive, legislative, and judicial? And there have actually been a number of different proposals on the table in terms of some reforms for Supreme Court justices. And I'm probably not going to do this justice, but instead of a lifetime appointment, you sort of have a term limit with rotating federal judges coming in and out of the Supreme Court. And that way people can't pick cases based on who is going to be in the court because those Supreme Court justices keep rotating on sort of a termed basis. So, I think it's an interesting conversation to have related to the Supreme Court and term limits. And as our democracy evolves, we should be having these conversations.
I think it'd be really difficult to get 2/3 of the states to agree to amend the Constitution on that. But I suppose it's possible. I mean, you can, if you put it forward, that it would at least have to be considered. But what I've found is, interestingly, like, for example, when I talk to people who say they don't like a strict constructionist view of the Constitution, they think it's a living document. It ought to be treated as a living document. And when they say that, it's usually when the court is aligned with their viewpoint. Because if you ask those same people, but what if it were a conservative court, or what if it were a liberal? Well, conservatives don't say that. What if it were a conservative court? Would you then think the Constitution is a living document? That, oh, no, I don't know. They don't agree with that. So that's the rub, that it becomes a political issue in terms of, and I'm not saying it's not a political issue now, to a degree, because you get these arguments. Oh, these are Trump-appointed judges. These are Biden-appointed judges. These are Clinton-appointed judges. And so it's in its attempt every time to demean the integrity of that particular judge or the panel on which judges sit. And so, yeah, you can't escape politics in everything. But with respect to what somebody might want in terms of changing the court or enlarging the court, they almost always mean that, thinking the people that they like and that they want are going to be on the in, and they're going to be in control. And it doesn't work that way.
And we are down to just a few seconds. It's interesting, though, because in 2003, they had a vote about affirmative action, and it passed. They were still allowed to use it for college admissions in 2003. And now we just had it in 2023 where they weren't, where they said that's not the right way to go. We want to thank everyone for watching. We want to thank our pundits for being part of this. And we'll see you next week on Tennessee This Week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.